This video is not for Bahamians. This one's supposed to escape y'all and go over your head. So if you're watching this and you're Bahamian, you ought to be watching it. This is for the international community to show you how weightless our previous leaders have been. We're talking about Hubert Ingram, Perry Christie, and the most honorable Hubert Minnis. International community, as I speak to you direct from my resort here in Dunderstown, overlooking some broke down buildings in the front of me that haven't been touched since Hurricane Dorian because they don't have the cash. No power, no electricity, no water, but I am in my condominiums and that's what I look at every day. But speaking to the international community, I want you to realize that there's a resort that sent me to jail because I speak about them. The name of the resort is called Baker's Bay. And this has nothing to do with the owner, Mike Melman. Mike Melman is a decent individual, but the Bahamas government has caused it because the people that they have given work permit to. The manager of Baker's Bay today was a golf pro, no experience, no managerial experience. All he could do is knock them little balls up and down and tell you how to knock them, and he can't knock them. But he found favor in Mike Melman, and he is the manager of the biggest resort in the Bahamas and indeed in the Caribbean. But just yesterday, we call the worst prime minister in the history of the world, and they call him the most honorable, Hubert Minnis, Minister of Finance of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And this is the deal that he met in place, and this is the deal that is still in place. I want the world to recognize this. We had a prime minister for 3 years, and he was indeed from Abaco. His name was Hubert Ingram. Copperston people like him more than they like Jesus. That is why he left in disgrace. He left in defeat because the Bahamian people was not at all pleased with him. Then we had Perry Christie, went to Baker's Bay the first week after being elected. He too was ushered out in disgrace, and even more so, he lost his seat. The first sitting prime minister lost his seat while prime minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Then we have another one that ought to have lost his seat, the most honorable Hubert Minnis. And those 3 prime ministers have fallen over backwards more for Baker's Bay than they've done for any Bahamians. But watch this world, the Bahamas, y'all ain't watching this one. Neither one of these black brutes, they're all black, neither one of them could sit at the table of a restaurant in Baker's Bay in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Nor could they sit at the bar and get a drink of water in Baker's Bay. This is the deal that Hubert Ingram, Perry Christie, and Minnis has edged in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. That is why Kai said that this brave administration needs to revisit these heads of agreement and fix it. You imagine 3 prime minister, former prime minister. One just was prime minister 4 months ago. For 4 years, he was prime minister. But today, he cannot eat at a restaurant. Baker's Bay got many restaurants, many bars, and he's not allowed on that island because of the deal that they have negotiated against them and their people. And guess what? These people have a license from the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to deprive them of the same thing that was happening in the Nelson Mandela Edge. I am happy to report that the South African that was the manager of Baker's Bay, through Kai tenacity and videographing, that he's been fired from the Abaco Club, and he's supposed to be out of this country by the 4th of January, 2022. Just because Kai spoke and videoed him what he was doing, taking jobs away from the Negro Bahamians. But I want you to I don't know how to show you how severe and how embarrassed I am by consecutive governments that allow an apartheid state to be set up in my birthplace of Abaco. Less than a 15 minutes speedboat ride from the capital of Marshaba. The Minister of National Security, I call him, he had more power than most people, Marvin Dames. Marvin Dames, the Minister of National Security, he was in charge of all the guns in the country. He was in charge of the Defense Force and the police force. And 4 years, Marvin Dames could sit at the table and eat and drink. But he lost that power to the Progressive Liberal Party. And Marvin Dames, that had that power for 4 years, as a black man, he cannot sit at the table in Baker's Bay. It is unheard of. Diagala, this guy was in charge of aviation and transportation. He's the one that disabled all taxi drivers from carrying the people off the $40 million jet. Baker's Bay would charge them hundreds of dollars when we're not even allowed to get any. You imagine the biggest resort that ever happened in Abaco. 4 miles. The majority of the drivers haven't made $100, and Baker's Bay is doing 10, 12 trips a day since the hurricane. And Kai Mills cannot make $100. This is unacceptable in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. They have set up an apartheid state. And guess what? Mike Melman didn't do it. Hubert Ingram, Perry Christie, and that weightless, no good for nothing menace. They did it, and it continued. It's a new day. And I'm calling on the brave Davis administration to show and to prove to the Bahamian that this is unacceptable. Because if they don't, they will lead, brave Davis will have the same fate as Hubert Ingram, Perry Christie, and Hubert Minnis. Can't have a glass of water in a resort in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. They are unfit because they're black and they're powerless like me. Neither one of them could go at Baker's Bay. And our license is what cost them to operate. Now, there's another fella there. He got different pigmentation. He was the dirtiest player on all the F&M. His name is officially the Great White Shark. His name is Brent Simonet. You see, Brent has a history. Mr. Sauer, I had a teacher, anybody from Abaco Central, I remember Ben Sauer. He would say about your DNA, you got the same DNA that your daddy had. Well, Brent's daddy used to smuggle liquor into the States to Al Capone them. That's where they started their well. So Brent has that same DNA of cutting deals. And it was evident under his portfolio that Brent Simonet, as Minister of Immigration and Investment, the first investment that Brett made the first year under the F&M government, he sit down at the table with the owners of Bakers Bay and award himself $25 million. Ric Flair would say, woo! $25 million. The Black brothers in the F&M, y'all should be ashamed of yourself. Only place to get some of that cake was Minnis. $25 million. He resigned himself. He ain't wait for Minnis to resign him. He got his. And he's blocking up Dunderstan. That's a story for another day. But you imagine the world I'm speaking to, not y'all in the Bahamas, because y'all ain't got it, that neither one of these ministers, ex-ministers in the F&M regime could go to Bakers Bay. Brent Seminit, probably the only one, can go there because he got white complexion. And he could go there as a businessman because he got a $25 million business investment, direct investment with Bakers Bay that he just edged the deal the other day. He could not only carry the blacks, but he now can carry the white. He can sit at the table, but no other black person can sit at the table in Bakers Bay.